Hello and welcome to Reading Tabby. I'm Tabitha. I also go by Tabby Tabs, and today is the first day of Gabby Reed's Summerween Readathon. She is hosting this year from July 3rd to July 9th, and for the first time ever, I'm participating. I'm super excited about it. Gabby Reed's puts together some prompts every year for Summerween to help you get to reading and to encourage you to read and to encourage you to build the TBR that kind of fits what she's going for here. And the theme this year is rather pink and fun, which I really enjoy. So prompt 1, read a book in the dark or at night. I'll 100% get this checked because I plan on reading all weekend. 2, read a thriller or horror book. Well, that's the point of Summerween, right? So my entire TBR is horror and thriller. 3, read a new to you author, someone you've never read from before. All but 2 books are by authors that I've never read. I've read Kingfisher and Courtney Gould. 4, read a book with pink on the cover. I've successfully managed that because I actually picked a couple of books that have pink on the cover. Total coincidence, by the way. And 5, read a book with less than 250 pages. And I did pick up a couple of novellas to meet that prompt, which are novellas that I already wanted to read anyways. Let's get down to what my TBR actually looks like. So with those prompts, I was able to narrow down my TBR to a smaller selection of books that I hope I can finish by July 9th. First up is Slasher Summer by Chen. It does have pink on the cover. Tiffany's wearing pink. This is a fun summer slasher story. It's supposed to be an homage to horror. I'm really looking forward to that one. Next up, I have Teddy Bears Never Die by Yeeun. The teddy bear is pink. This is a horror romance. This girl and this teddy bear, is possessed by a real man. They fall in love, apparently. That just sounds wild to me, and I'm so intrigued by how that story is going to pan out. Next up, I have a couple of arcs that I got from NetGalley that I'm really excited about, and that includes Natural Selection by Clare, which I believe is a feminine rage slasher. I love those. I'm really hoping that's what this is. I'm really excited to get around to reading that. I also picked up Until the Last Light Goes Out by Courtney Gould. I really enjoy Courtney Gould. I've read all of her previous books, which include The Dead in the Dark, What the Woods Took. That was her most recent one that came out last. And then Where Echoes Die. She writes LGBT horror. So I'm really interested in getting around to that and seeing where this new story takes us because I love her writing style. And then for my novellas, I picked up What Moves the Dead by Kingfisher, which is a series that I've had for a long time. I've had those audiobooks for the longest time, so I need to get to reading them finally. And I just know I'm going to love them because I'm such a fan of Kingfisher. I've only read a couple of their works at this point, but love it. And then I also picked up The Extra by Neugebauer, which reminds me a lot of one of my favorite underrated horror movies, Head Count, which is a movie about fear and paranoia when there's an extra body in the room, but you don't know who the extra person is. I love that concept, and that's what this book is, so I'm really excited to be reading that this weekend. As for mediums, I have a mix of print, audiobook, and ebook. I like to go between reading both at the same time sometimes. Really helps me get into the book when I have both the audiobook and the book to read. And so I'm really looking forward to getting through these, hopefully by July 9th. Let's get down to it. It is 9:30 on Friday, July 3rd, and I might have gotten a little bit of a head start on Summerween last night. I was just so excited to start Slasher Summer by Chen. I've had the arc for this for a while, and then obviously I went out and bought the paperback. I love the sprayed edges, so fun. And I also listened to the audiobook on Spotify. I had so much fun with this. I just knew that I would really enjoy it, and I did. I gave this 5 stars. It was so much fun. I loved all the homages to classic horror. As someone who has read and watched a lot of classic horror, I loved that the author is also a fan of that, and you can really tell as you're reading this story. even down to the characters' names. Like we have Jason, we have Carrie, we have Patrick. I loved that. I thought that was such a fun little note in this story. And I also really like that this, even though it's derivative in that it's a classic slasher, it turns tropes on their head as well. There's a lot of really fun misdirects and red herrings in this, where you're reading this and you're expecting it to go a certain way, and then it turns around and goes a completely different way. I loved that. I thought that was so much fun. It really kept me on my toes. I also loved that in the audiobook, because this is such a big cast of characters, and every chapter is a separate character reading. It's from their point of view, a first-person point of view, and that normally is just too much for me. I have a hard time keeping so many characters separate and distinct in my brain, and so I was a little bit worried about that, but honestly, you get to know all these characters so well, and by the halfway point, I had no problem keeping them all straight. I knew exactly who everyone was. This is Jennifer, this is Freddie, Carrie, Jason, Mikey, Tiffany, Patrick, Slasher. I can't believe I just was able to do all that just off the top of my head as well. That's how well you get to know the characters in this story. I also listened to the audiobook on Spotify, where every narrator is narrated by a different voice actor. Loved that. I love when books do that. I think that really helps as well, making each character distinct by giving them their own voice. But yeah, this was just such a good time. I really enjoyed it. It was so much fun. I love a fun summer slasher, and this was the perfect way to kick off Summerween. I'm so excited to get to reading the rest of my books now. I'm currently in the parking lot at Chipotle. I decided to pick up some lunch. I am listening to the audiobook of Teddy Bears Never Die while I'm running errands today. I also want to stop at Michael's. They have a Summerween sale going on apparently, so I've been told. I want to see if they've actually got anything at my Michael's. And then I think I might pick up some cookies for the family and guests today, because we've got people here for the 4th already. And I think some cookies might be a nice surprise for everyone. So make it that. Holy crap, is Michael's expensive. $50 for this cheap feeling felt banner on a wooden dowel. $50. I can't justify that. I'm sorry. Absolutely not. I will not be buying anything Summerween from Michael's. They are way too expensive. So it's about 4:30. I'm like 80% into Teddy Bears Never Die, and I'm taking a break from reading today because I've been reading a lot. I'm sure I'll finish that later tonight. But I decided I was going to play some Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I started replaying it over Christmas, and I haven't played for about a month and a half now, maybe 2 months. It just life and work and everything. And so like I log in and I don't remember what power level I am, what I'm doing in the game. The map says it requires power level 300, and I'm like, well shoot, I don't think I was that high. Yeah. 537. I think I'll be okay. It's now 6:30 and I have finished Teddy Bears Never Die by Yeeun, translated by Sung Ryu. I loved this. I thought it was so good. I did not end up playing very much Assassin's Creed Valhalla because I was so close to the end of this, which by the way, I no longer need this. And I just had to finish it. I could not stop thinking about it. And I'm so glad I did because loved it. In this story, there are 2 teenagers, Doha, who awakens in the body of a pink teddy bear, unsure of what happened to his real life body, and Hwa-young, a teenage girl who is left an orphan after a tragic mass murder at her mother's workplace. She worked at an apartment building, and this guy poisoned a bunch of people with rice cakes, and her mother just happened to die. However, she never believed that because her mother had a strong aversion to rice cakes, and so she thinks her mother was murdered. And so when she meets Doha in the body of this teddy bear, he helps her out of a pickle, and she realizes he could be handy. And they strike up a deal where she offers to help him find his body if he'll help her avenge her mom. And together they set about this town and wreak havoc, essentially. So many of the situations they find themselves in end rather gruesomely. It's a little bit wild. It's totally weird. I love the relationship between the two. It's very, when I say it's sentimental, they get sort of philosophical when they're talking to each other at times. It's as their relationship grows, they spend so much time together, getting to know each other, getting to know each other's truths, their secrets. It's full of revelations of many different kinds. And some of them will make you tear up as well. And then there's also times when you'll laugh. It can be a little silly. It's, a girl and a teddy bear wreaking havoc across Yamu. It was so much fun. I absolutely loved it. My only complaint is the timeline can get a little confusing at times. But otherwise, this is the most unique slasher I've ever read. I absolutely recommend this, especially if you're into weird horror or weird romance. This is such a good one. So it's almost 11 p.m. on the 4th of July. I think everything is starting to wind down. It sounds like the fireworks are starting to wind down. I had to wait a little bit to film this video because my neighbors were still setting off fireworks. And I did manage to squeeze in some Summerween today, even though it is Independence Day. I made dirt cups with my nibblings earlier with gummy worms and gummy eyeballs. They got a big kick out of that. We put some sparkler candles in there to make it a little bit 4th of July like. And then I did manage to read The Extra by Annie Neugebauer. I really enjoyed it. I gave it 5 stars. It has an eerie, spooky atmosphere. The paranoia is top notch. It was such a fun short read. Perfect for Summerween, to be honest, especially with the setting of like a hike out in the woods. And it was just such a good time. I really did like it. The only thing that gave me issue was the ending. The ending is kind of open-ended. It leaves you wanting a little bit. But yeah, overall, really solid novella. I enjoyed my time with it, and I'm so glad that I've been having some really good Summerween reads so far. now about halfway through What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. I'm enjoying it so far. I really like T. Kingfisher's writing. The story has more fantasy elements than I was expecting it to. It's leaning more fantasy than I was expecting it to, but I shouldn't be surprised because T. Kingfisher, she really likes her fantasy, and I like her fantasy too, from what I've read of her so far. And I'm so curious where the story is going to go, because obviously, as a retelling of The Fall of the House of Usher by Edgar Allan Poe, I know how it ends. I know the story beats, but at the same time, obviously, Kingfisher's going to put her own spin on things, and so I'm really curious what that spin's going to be. I'm hoping it's gruesome. Fingers crossed for some gruesome endings. I love a fun, wild ending. So I'm going to finish that up, play some Sims, and I'll check back in once I'm done. It is mid-afternoon on Sunday, July 5th, and I have finished my 4th Summerween read, What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. 5 stars. I loved it. It's, basically everything I love. Poe, so a Poe retelling, right up my alley. I love fungal horror. That's exactly what this is. Historical setting, love that. I love the setting in general. This creepy old house by a lake. Oh, with surrounded by woods. Sounds beautiful. And eerie. But I love creepy stuff, so I think it sounded really nice. This story was everything I wanted it to be, knowing that T. Kingfisher wrote it. She has just this really wonderful way with fantasy. She's so imaginative and incredibly descriptive with her writing. I love her characters especially. They're all so distinct. In a way that, across novels, but even within the novels, I find that she's great with giving characters their own unique voices. And I just absolutely loved this. It went by so quickly. I listened to the audiobook, which is narrated by Avi Roque. Loved them. I thought they were great. Definitely going to be looking for books narrated by them in the future, and I know they also narrate the sequels, which I have already and will be definitely reading now. Not perhaps for Summerween, but soon in the future. I also bought this book for my shelves. I loved it so much. I just had to. So I do plan on getting the sequels for my shelves as well, which I'm sure I'll love them just as much. But there goes my collecting now of Alex Hero, Sylvia Moreno Garcia, and now T. Kingfisher books. I just need them all for my shelves. I just love them. And I'm so excited that I've had yet another excellent Summerween read. I think this readathon is going really well so far, knock on wood. And I look forward to finishing my 2 arcs now that I have left on my TBR. I have Natural Selection by Clare Edge, and I have Until the Last Light Goes Out by Courtney Gould. It is Wednesday, July 8th. I have a little bit of a frog in my throat, sorry. I think I'm coming down with something, to be honest. It's been a very long week at work. I'm very tired. I'm exhausted, to be honest, not wearing makeup, but I did buy some new makeup today. I also bought my nephew a birthday card, and I bought some fun drinks that are probiotic drinks that I'm hoping will help me get through whatever this is, help me get over it. My new goal, instead of finishing Natural Selection and Until the Last Light Goes Out, is to finish 50% of both. I think that's much more achievable, much more doable, and I think that I'll be able to accomplish that tonight and tomorrow. So, new goals, just finish 50% of them, finish the books themselves over the weekend, give myself some breathing room. So I said I was only going to get 50% in, and then I was going to do 50% of Until the Last Light Goes Out. But when I picked Natural Selection back up, I was 15% in. Around 55%, I realized I should probably take a break and pick up Until the Last Light Goes Out. Then it was 80%, and then I'd finish the book. It was just so good. It was so much better than I was even expecting it to be, even though just from the description, I had a good feeling that this would be something I was into. It was described as feminine rage. It was described as a slasher. Whether or not it's a slasher, I think might be up for debate. It can, maybe in its own way. Slasher in the same way maybe Jennifer's Body is a slasher. This reminded me a lot of Jennifer's Body. Theming wise, they have a lot in common because this is about the various ways men take advantage of women and how they get away with it and why they get away with it and what happens when girls stand up for themselves and say, we're not going to take it no more. This has such a girl power vibe to it. Even though it's absolutely devastating at times, I cried. Like, I was fully tearing down my face. There's a couple of scenes that were hard to read, to be honest, but at the same time, it's so satisfying seeing the relationship between these three girls, these three Megans. One goes by Outlaw, one goes by B, the third actually goes by Megan Wright. But they have such a beautiful relationship with each other, even though B is a bit of an outsider. She just moved here from Seattle to this small town in Montana, and she comes into a pre-existing relationship between Megan and Outlaw, who've been friends forever. They grew up in this town, they grew up together, and yet she, even though she is an outsider, she becomes one of them so seamlessly and in such a beautiful way. By the end of this story, you'll be cheering these girls on. Well, I mean, you're going to be cheering them on from the start. Let's be honest, I was. This is what kept me going. That's what kept me reading the story. It was just so good. I have to think on it a little bit before I actually write up my review, though. But it was so good. I've got so many feelings about it. And I look forward to seeing more reviews and discussing this book with more people, because when it comes out on August 25th, I highly recommend picking it up. It's worth it. It's worth the pickup. I know I'll be getting it for my shelves. It is Thursday, July 9th, and Summerween is over. Well, it's still light outside, but I'm done. I'm tired. I finished at least one more book. I'm quite proud of how I finished Summerween. So we started with Summer Slasher by E.L. Chen. I gave that 5 stars. I really enjoyed that one. Teddy Bears Never Die by Yeeun was 4 stars. Enjoyed that one a lot too. That was very unique and very different, and I loved that. I loved that about it. Finished The Extra by Annie Neugebauer. Gave that 4 stars. That was a spooky paranoia good time. Then, of course, What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. Loved that. That was 5 stars. Really enjoyed that. And then, of course, Natural Selection by Clare Edge, which was 5 stars. I really enjoyed that. I think I had such a great reading experience this week, and I'm so happy that things turned out as well as they did. So I'm looking forward to the next challenge. Thank you to Gabby Reeds for hosting this, and it was so much fun, really. I had a great time. And I look forward to next Summerween. Well, actually, I look forward to Halloween and then Winterween and then Summerween again. But I'm going to already start planning what I want to read for Halloween and Winterween, because I have some ideas in mind already. But thank you if you watched this video all the way through. I really appreciate you. I really appreciate you watching. And I look forward to talking more books with you in the future. Bye.